In the 19-teens, Harlem was just beginning to see its African American population rise. Its cultural renaissance, which helped define Harlem's and its African American residents' rich culture and heritage, wouldn't happen for quite a few more years, and the Globetrotters for even longer. Yet, in the 19-teens, an all-black unit from this little community would become the most decorated Allied unit of World War I. They were the Men of Bronze, the Harlem Hellfighters. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Real History Of. I'm your host Christopher, the video game historian, and today I'm going to take a look at the regiment that DICE used in their advertising for Battlefield 1. This is The Real History of the Harlem Hellfighters. During World War I, the United States was still in the midst of Jim Crow laws and separate but equal facilities, the military being one of them. At the time, the US military was accepting of recruiting blacks, and while they were trained for combat, racial segregation kept them from the front lines. In fact, only 4 regiments in the army were accepting of blacks, though they were restricted to labor duties. Despite this, nearly 380,000 African Americans still enlisted into the army in hopes of serving their country. Because of the high numbers of African Americans joining the army, the military had to turn and conscript National Guard units who were also accepting of blacks into the army. One such unit was the 15th New York National Guard, which would become the 369th Infantry Regiment of the 93rd Division under the leadership of Colonel Hayward. Hayward petitioned the military command to allow his men the opportunity to fight, as he saw the courage and dedication that his men had in them. His petition was granted, and the 369th were cleared for combat under one condition. General John Pershing, head of the American Expeditionary Forces in Europe, allowed the 369th to fight. However, they were not to be fighting under American command. Instead, the all-black regiment hailing from Harlem would be given to the French 16th Division under French command in order to refill their reinforcements. In December 1917, they landed in Brest, and in March they were training under French command, given French Adrian helmets, belts, ammo pouches, rifles, and cartridges, and were allowed to continue to wear their American uniforms. By the summer of 1918, they were fighting in the Champagne-Marne Defensive and the Aisne-Marne Offensive. They were there during the Meuse-Argonne Offensive, where they took the town of Ripon on the first day and captured a key railway junction near Seychelles. While French officers doubted that they had the courage to fight, the regiment constantly went above and beyond what was expected of them, and constantly shocked the French on how willing they were in the face of death. Out of respect, the French nicknamed the 369th the Men of Bronze. Out of fear, the Germans called them the Harlem Hellfighters. According to Colonel Sanders, "We did not name ourselves. Our enemies gave us our name, which is an honor." All in all, they suffered 1,500 losses to their unit, but despite that, they never lost a man to a prisoner, nor did they lose a foot of ground that they had captured, and they fought in the trenches for 191 consecutive days at the Champagne-Marne front, longest of any Allied unit in the war. They were the first Allied unit to cross the Rhine, and even helped introduce the French and Europe to jazz, thanks to the regimental band leader, James Reese Europe. For their efforts during the war, the French awarded the regiment the Croix de Guerre, France's highest military medal, and 171 men of the regiment too were awarded medals for their sacrifices and bravery. Sergeant Henry Johnson and Private Needham Roberts were both awarded the Croix de Guerre, for in May 1918, outnumbered, they defended an outpost from a German attack, never surrendering or giving up, and using whatever weapons were available to them. Upon their return home, Colonel Hayward helped pull as many political strings as he could in order to have his men march in a victory parade down Fifth Avenue. Though they were allowed this parade, they would not be allowed to march in the official victory parade months later. The men also came home to devastating race riots and the Red Summer of 1919, in which 10 war veterans were lynched in their uniforms. Despite their heroism in Europe and going above and beyond the call of duty, they still felt pushback, racism, and hatred back at home. It wouldn't be until 2014 that Sergeant Henry Johnson is officially awarded the United States Medal of Honor for his actions mentioned earlier. For more information about the Harlem Hellfighters, I would recommend checking out the graphic novel The Harlem Hellfighters by Max Brooks. That's all for this episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and if you have, please like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below.